Let's go. Let's go.
E já tem a sua vaga na grande final do VCT Ascension.
A nossa grande finalíssima será a norte-americana.
We took down Brazil, we took down the powerhouse, we fought against the crowd, and we're the villains of the crowd. We're here to take down the guard now after taking them down in NA multiple times.
Koala!
Eita!
Que balinha! Olha só o trabalho!
Louco, Koala!
Movimentação!
Why you so quiet?
Desconfiou e foi chumbado pelo EU.
M80 explode here on Fracture, and they give us an all North American Grand Final.
It can't get better than this, right? Grand final to decide who's the better team of NA.
The stakes are super high. We're up 2-2 against the guard. We're gonna see who wins the tiebreaker here, but I'm pretty confident that we're gonna come home with it.
You know, we're running this tournament right now, and I think with that we can beat anybody.
We fought our way here to the grand finals. Now we're just one step away from the title.
Nothing has ever been given to us. We're gonna put the hard work in, and we're gonna be at the top.
Goosebumps, baby, it's Grand Finals Day. We have been waiting for this day since the season began, going all the way back to the latter part of winter. Back in February, we saw these teams put on a list. Who was the #1 team in each region? Who was the #2 team? And the two teams that people talked about the most, Tanner, the Guard and M80. Yep. These were the teams that everyone thought would be playing in this final, and the storyline comes true.
And the storyline comes true. I mean, it's easy for us because we got a direct look at it, but to hear from everybody else, I think M80 really coming into this one as the favorite. And when you look at the matchups, things seem even. M80 kind of leading, but once we got to when it matters, you see in the bracket here, the Guard getting a win over M80, the Guard making it all the way to the grand finals, and now you're thinking like, wow, this team that was built to do this is about to freaking do it.
And looking at the bracket, you can see that M80 had to play a lot more because the Guard just kept winning matches, so they had to play less. M80 had to end up going to lowers because they lost versus the Guard, their opponents today. So they have shown everything in their book. The Guards played less. They might have something that we haven't seen up their sleeve for today.
M80 as well facing off against the Union in that group stage match. To kick off the event, they lost that opener. That puts them in that second seed where they then have to play in a quarterfinal match. So they did play a match before the Guard, who got a first round bye. So there's a small part of that you look at it like, man, M80's had to play a lot of games.
Yeah.
That's kind of a good thing for them and kind of a bad thing. It's a good thing because they get a lot of practice in the LAN environment. In fact, they're the only ones in this event or in this final that have played on this stage already because the Guard did not play yesterday, so they did not play in this environment yet. They have not played in front of a crowd. But it's also a bad thing, because now there's a lot of tape on what they're doing currently. Active playing tape, not just what they did in the past.
Yeah, and talking about yesterday, we saw the M80 that we all needed to see for them to make it to the grand finals. They had to play 2 BO3s, and today is a BO5, so they gave us a sense of their resilience, of that they can run a marathon, they can keep on pushing through, because today is going to be no different in terms of the length of how many maps they're going to need.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to that point, right, of M80. What they showed yesterday, you can't hold strats, especially if you're playing the Union again, the team that beat you, right? So what we saw from M80 yesterday, the Guard can probably expect today.
Well, obviously there's history here. These teams know each other. They've played against each other so many times. The matchup, if I'm not mistaken, is dead even, and it means the players have a lot of opinions on what you might expect. Let's take a look.
One enemy remaining.
Yeah, so playing against M80 I think is going to be an exciting rematch. We beat them in the playoffs here 2-0, but they beat us a lot in the Challengers playoffs leading up to this event. So this is kind of like the last straw. We're tied 2-2, so.
One enemy remaining.
The stakes are super high. We're up 2-2 against the guard. So we're looking to get the tiebreaker match here at the finish line, making sure we take home the trophy and making sure we take home Ascension into franchising. We're going to see who wins the tiebreaker here, but I'm pretty confident that we're going to come home with it.
But I am a little down that Union isn't in the grand final because I would have loved to experience a home ground team in Brazil playing against the crowd cheering for them. I'm excited for that. Hopefully an NA versus NA final will still be as exciting. I hope you guys still come and cheer us on. And I think we're going to play great versus them, hoping to come out with another win.
My main goal is getting into the franchise league, passing this Ascension league, winning this grand finals against the guard. So we put in a lot of hard work individually and on the team. We're not going to let that hard work go to waste. We're going to cross the finish line here against the guard.
Short, mas tem pro Tex. Garante seu bate, não tem fuga. Leva dois, bate pra cima, leva mais joga muito, Tex!
We took down Brazil, we took down the powerhouse, we fought against the crowd, and we're the villains of the crowd. We're here to take down the guard now after taking them down in NA multiple times, and we're here to be at the finish line.
Yeah, I think grand finals on land, in front of a crowd, there's pressure, people are going to be making mistakes. It's going to show how good that team really is. I don't think you're going to be able to say, oh, M80 is better, or oh, the guard is better. Whoever wins this match will decide who's the better team. We've been going at it back and forth between the whole year, and now it's finally going to decide who really is the best.
You can hear it from the players. They've been waiting for this moment for such a long time. Everything they've done this year has led to this moment. And how better would it be than to see them facing off against each other here in this final? This is the storyline we all wanted to see. And it's a storyline we've already seen play out. We saw them face off against each other in multiple matches throughout the Challengers splits, throughout the Challengers playoffs, and even here at this event in the bracket as well, as we saw the guard knock M80 down into the lower bracket. We've got a lot of history between these two teams, Tanner, more so than any other teams currently competing at this event.
Yeah, and I just want to say in that video, Valorant said, like, I wish it was the Union. I wanted a Brazilian team with the Brazilian. Hey, slow your roll, buddy, okay? You don't even have a stage day. I think you're going to be feeling the pressure a bit from the crowd just with M80 on the other side. But yeah, this to me, looking at this, even when we saw them meet earlier in the bracket, seeing the NA versus NA, I know that Union is good. I know that 00 Nation is good. Nueva Zeta is good. But the guard versus M80, for these two teams, this has to be the most difficult matchup. They've played each other so many times, right? It's hard to keep secrets from one another. Just the back and forth, the amount of reps they have against the two teams between one another is, I think this makes it such a difficult matchup for both sides.
And how appropriate is it, too, that if you actually look at the stats from players for this event, the top 10 players are the 5 players from each of these teams. Like, realistically, this is exactly what people would anticipate based on numbers alone. You can take a look at the stats for M80. As, you know, it kind of follows true to what we've seen all throughout the Challengers splits, through midseason face-off, through the playoffs, and here at Ascension as well. I mean, maybe the minor exception here, Em, is that Xander is actually popping off, leading the ACS. But otherwise, I think everything pretty much connects with what we've seen as a storyline for M80 thus far.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually, a high ACS is usually what we'd see more on the duelist side, like you mentioned. But in terms of the average kills, average deaths, everybody's pretty dead even almost across the scoreboard. If we're looking at the assists, which is something I want to highlight that you can see from Nismo, he's got 10.5 average assists, and that is huge because that means that he's doing a beautiful job on his role as a support that he loves so much. He's such a good breach, such a good KO, and that shows right here with the stats of his assists.
Yesterday as well, EU was, I think, 68 and 34 across the two best of threes. He had a field day, so look at those numbers. You might be like, man, you know, EU's maybe struggling. No, not really. When EU's playing the role he needs to play, he plays it quite well. And he was a big piece of the puzzle yesterday for M80 in their successes to get them to this point. But then you look at the flip side, the guard. Similar storyline. You've got 5 players, all very capable on an individual level. Collectively, it works. Tanner, I feel like the storyline is the same for both teams. It's 5 players, everyone's really good. There's not really necessarily one player who has to step up because anyone can do it at any given moment.
Yeah, I think what you see to go back to M and the assist, what you see here for the guard is you have a handful of players who are inching a bit closer in that assist, which kind of, I think that is the guard, right? Just as a collective, their core, they play together so incredibly well, which is something that I thought we saw a lot from M80 yesterday. They always had ideas. It was great. But this is just what the guard is. They're calm, they're cool, they're collected. They always have a backup plan. They're always playing together. And you can really see it with Valen matching those assists, Jonah P having those assists, who is a huge player. And then this standout, right? Obviously, Trent. Trent, just who Trent is, it's so cool, the story behind Trent staying with this team and wanting to get it done with 5, or this 5 specifically, when he could go play with whoever he wants, and he's about to do that, right? He's given this opportunity here in the grand finals.
Yeah, this team has such a strong core, like you were saying. They've been together for such a long time. They have the experience. They have the LAN experience, the pressure experience, which is very important. Looking at the stats here for Valen, although the average kills and deaths aren't as necessarily high as the other players, you have to remember, Valen is the heart and soul of the team. And I think throughout all of Ascension, he has been doing an absolute beautiful job as that role, doing a great job adapting mid-round, which I think is something he really shines on. And that's something that M80 is going to have to watch out for. Valen knows how to adapt and play around what's being given to him.
One of the things we've talked about with regards to this team, going back to VCT, I remember when we first saw this team play in VCT, obviously slightly different roster. Tex was a part of the team at the time. They had Saya player. The cast percentage was so consistent across all of them, and that again remains to be the case. The cast percentage for the top 6 players, 5 of them are members of the guard. The only player that's in the mix from M80 is Xander. He manages to scratch in at number 2, if I'm not mistaken. But otherwise, it's the guard through and through with their cast percentages, which just illustrates the point you guys are talking about. This team works as a team better than potentially anyone else in any of the regions playing in Challengers. And I mean that in a global sense. They work so well throughout the Challenger splits, here in Ascension as well. It just feels like everything clicks. It's so coordinated. And that's what makes them so scary. But the 2 people I feel like a lot of people are going to have eyes on is going to be the duelists. Everyone is always going to look at the duelists, Tanner. And obviously, we're going to have some fun watching Tex and Koala Noob duel it against each other.
Yeah, and much like the M80 versus the guard is kind of, I always see it as, what was it? Unstoppable force, immovable object. I said it against, the Union against the guard. Koala is kind of the tip of that unstoppable force. Tex, even the team themselves, Tex himself said, he's not necessarily playing that crazy jump in, do it all duelist role, but he's doing it well, the role that he does play, right? He's playing that entry. I don't think there's as much Tex go kill, but the stats are so incredibly close. And if Koala Noob is going to be, I guess this is how I'll put it. Whenever M80 is kind of down and out, Koala's usually having a bad day. And if Tex is having a good day and Koala's having a bad day, or if Tex is able to inch out these stats versus the Koala stats that we see on screen, I think that bodes incredibly well for the guard.
Well, you're looking at these first kills and all of these other stats. The number I always look at, M, is the first deaths. Koala is one of the most aggressive duelists that's playing at this event. The only one that was maybe more aggressive was Verdi, just the way he takes first exchanges. And like Tanner said, they don't always work out.
And it's interesting you pointed out the KD, right? For Koala, it's 1.14 versus Tex, 1.13. However, for the first kills, first blood, first kills, Koala is exceeding Tex over that. So that's very interesting, even though the KD is higher for Tex. So I wonder what type of support and what is the situation of that's leading up to that first kill differential.
You talk about support, and it's very easy to forget that some of the support players playing in this game are some of the best to do it in the region. When you look at players like Jonah P and Nismo, Jonah P has been having a field day at times. Obviously, his stats don't look quite as good as Nismo's. Part of that being that Nismo does slot in as a raise sometimes. So is ACS going to be slightly higher? But we were talking about it. Jonah P's Sky is scary good.
It's so scary, and it's really annoying, right? Playing against a Skye that is so good. You can get bit and stunned by the dog, but Jonah P is a very aggressive Skye, and I think that's why he is incredibly well with the KD here on 1.21. He's not afraid to go in. He has been playing with so much confidence that I love to see from him. The grand finals that we saw from the splits, and even in Ascension, it's really showing of how confident he is on that. He definitely stands out on the Skye. And Nismo, of course, even though he loves going on duelists that we love to see him on, he's a very good supportive player too. I think people don't give the supportive players as much credit as they should, because these players are not only setting up their teammates, but they're also fragging for their team.
And it's Jonah playoffs, right? That's what the P stands for. So you have to, you can take these stats, sure, but you have to expect a completely different Jonah P. The last stat down there, 27% clutch percentage for Jonah P, 35 on their side of Nismo. These teams are so closely matched. I think that is going to be a huge component. It's going to come down to who is inching out those 1v2s, or I guess the 1v2s, the 1v3s, the 1v1s. And a lot of these players are in the top percentages for clutch. So even then, it's just as, I mean, the nitty gritty, the onesies and twosies, Bach, the onesies and twosies.
You know how much I love when you use made-up words. Those two players as well, you mentioned, top performers, number 1 and number 2 in APR. Very clearly setting up their team for success while also finding it themselves. You talk about it, though. You said when you look at these two teams comparatively, very close to one another, and we actually have stats that can compare the teams, their attack side win rates, their defensive win rates, their post plans. All of these numbers overlap pretty evenly. You can see the defensive sides definitely pretty good for both of these teams. The attack side maybe slightly better for the guard, but Tanner, some of those stats, I mean, you look at the post plant percentage. This is something we've praised these teams for. Their post plant setups are damn near oppressive.
Yeah, and what do you do for post-plant as well as 4v5, right? So if both of these teams are down a player and they're winning just about 40% of the time each, right, you can never count them out. The one stat that stands out is the pistol round, which is something that M80 have to come into this series with things hammered out to ensure that they can get this early lead, because that is going to be, the pistol round, the anti-eco. We saw M80 forcing in the series yesterday. I mean, the first couple of rounds, I don't think those are going to dictate the game, but, towards the end of some of these maps, we might see, if a second half pistol win went the other way, maybe we'd be in overtime.
M80 did lose pistols, but they made up for it, right, Em? Like, this is a team who, in the second round, those force buys, watch out. Even if they don't really force, a couple of sheriffs, just keep the buy a little bit lighter, not going with like a stinger and armor or anything like that. Their aim is so on point, and again, because of the fact that they have that individual pop-off factor, like every single player is exceptionally talented, it's scary when you match up against them, even just with pistols.
I think, looking at the pistol percentage, honestly, it takes a huge role on how well they're going to be succeeding. It's one of the reasons why they had to play 3 extra BO3s in comparison to the guard. They didn't win as many pistols, which essentially could be an advantage if you win the pistol, because you control the economy, right? You have to force the other team to either force buy to try to win the second round or save, so you have 2-round advantage. So I think for today, they're probably going to be focusing on those pistols because of such the difference. Like we saw, everything else was pretty much dead on even in terms of the stats.
I do want to mention how kind of volatile, although it worked yesterday, M80 they were just red hot on the day. They were very volatile with their economy in, winning pistols, or when they did win pistols, anti-eco. The rounds were so incredibly close, 2 or 3 people would die, and they were reinvesting. They were kind of throwing the bonus round out the window. They were reinvesting to kind of keep the momentum moving forward. So I'm wondering if they'll stick to that. If, the pressure is on. Obviously, they felt pressured yesterday, but now they feel it again today. And I'm wondering if we do see, those second round forces if they lose the pistol, or if we do see them scrap the bonus rounds and reinvest. The thing that looked poorly outside of jitters for M80 at the start of the tournament was teams being able to force them to play a different game. And the M80 that we've seen of recent has stuck to their guns.
We'll see how these teams adjust to, the fact that they're going to be playing in front of a crowd obviously has an impact, and we saw that rattle some players' cages just yesterday. M80 obviously rose to the occasion. And M80 is now experienced in this atmosphere. The Guard has not played in front of a crowd. I know people are thinking, yeah, the Guard played at Reykjavik. There was no crowd, dog. That was COVID time. So there was no one there to watch outside of the staff at the event, which basically was the same as playing at the studio event they just played in. They have not yet played in front of a crowd. I will say this. I kind of feel like the Guard is the home team here. Because, Tanner, if you watched that game yesterday,
yeah,
M80 was not exactly shy about talking some smack on stage against the Union based on their interactions with them as a team. So that might put some salt in the mouths of the Brazilian fan base. They're going to now be cheering for the Guard just because they're playing against M80.
Yeah, oh man, you know, good publicity or any publicity is good publicity, whatever it is, right? I think you're completely right. The people that show up today might not be fans of the Guard. They might not be here to watch the Guard win because they like the Guard. They're here to watch M80 lose. And you know what? That gets butts in seats. So I'm not against it for M80.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, Buck, I really think you're onto something in terms of the crowd is probably going to be cheering against M80. They took down one of their home teams and sent them home, and that could be an advantage for the Guard. But like you were saying, the Guard has played far less here, and they don't have that crowd experience that M80 was able to get yesterday. I think it was almost a blessing that they did have to end up playing more matches and end up playing 2 BO3s yesterday, because then it's setting them up for today. The Guard yesterday, they just had to sit around and watch what they were going to be doing to try to analyze and counter strat of expecting what's coming today. So the M80 in that terms, they're prepared, they're warmed up and ready to go for game time.
Yeah, I do want to mention too that I hope for, as far as like fans and stuff go, I hope that maybe one of these 2 North American teams can kind of be indoctrinated as a fan that the Brazilian fans can root for, because they did make it on this stage here in Brazil, right? So it can kind of pseudo be the Brazilian representatives that make it to Americas and somebody that the Brazilian fans can continue to root for.
As we see the teams grace the stage one final time here in São Paulo, it's important to just bring this up as best as we can. Tied 2-2 in their series against one another. The Guard, 6 maps, M80, 5 maps. The round differential between the 2 teams across all of their games played thus far is +4 in favor of the Guard. Across all of those maps, they played 11 maps. And it's +4. That kind of illustrates the scenario that's playing out here. These teams could not be more evenly matched. And it's a scenario we knew was inevitable. And you can see the teams getting into it with the crowd. I think M80 is probably embracing their position here, Tanner, as the villains. They seem to indicate that in the video.
Yeah.
They're okay if the crowd is booing. They just want to hear noise.
Yeah, 100%. And again, butts and seats. That's what it's about, to be able to have this crowd out there, whether it's to watch you win or watch you lose. But like you said, EU coming out, still kind of shushing the crowd, whereas you can just see, we can't hear it, but the Guard are definitely getting more of the crowd love.
One would assume, as we see this, I mean, obviously, like, I think there's still an amount of people who are like, you know what? We liked watching them win. We love that zesty atmosphere they bring to the stage. How could you not like seeing teams bring what they bring to the table, even if it's just in the server? As you can see the Guard getting the claps and cheers. I really do wish we could hear this, Em. It seems like the crowd is very much behind these teams.
I want to hear it. I want to hear all the cheers. But as a player, listen, I want to get into the mindset as a player when you're walking out on stage. Lizzo's like, come on, come on. Oh, gosh. But when you're walking out and hear the crowd, you're facing your opponents. As you can see, they're right next to each other. You're looking at each other's in the eyes. This is where your heart starts to race. You know what I mean? You're getting into the game mode right here and now. They have been playing so long for this very moment to get to the grand finals.
Well, Valen is obviously hyping up with the crowd. John QT is a cold-blooded killer. That man has no emotion. He even rocks the masks. You can't even tell if he's smiling. And honestly, the amount of times we've spoken to him and we've seen him in general, he is definitely very stoic in nature, which makes him difficult to read. At this point, it comes down to preparation. Who has prepared more for their opponent? Yes, the guard has obviously had extra time. They got to watch M80 play back-to-back BO3s yesterday. Anything that M80 has done differently since their last match has been gleaned by the guard. But M80 also has a brilliant tactical mind behind the scenes in Happy, who's helping dictate pace and play and how they approach everything. And that's clearly been a part of their success.
Yeah, so coming into this one for the guard, through the upper bracket, the big advantage that they have, right? Maybe a little bit of nerves, haven't played in front of the fans, but Josh RT said they are a 7-map team, and fortunately, because of their route to get here, the success that they found, they only have to play 5 of them. You know, they get the extra bans coming into this one, which doesn't necessarily mean that the guard have a bad map. They can just take away good M80 maps.
And there is one map in that mix of all of the maps that is not a good M80 map. I am curious to see if we will experience Bind. I feel like there is not a world on Earth where the guard does not at some point pick Bind here, simply because M80 does not get that ability to ban it. It's been a map they have not played, not even one time. There's not like a qualifier or an open match they played under a different team name with side accounts or Smurfs or something. They've literally never played it. We have no idea what to expect should we make it to Bind. And on the other hand, I feel like Guard is actually a pretty apt team on Bind. They seem to play the map well, and they like to play it.
Oh yeah, you know for a fact they went back to their hotel rooms last night after winning, and they were like, guys, we're probably gonna have to play Bind today, right? So I would imagine that they were trying to prepare for that when we find out what the maps are gonna be eventually.
Well, look at that map pool here for the Guard as well. Obviously, the Guard very comfortable on pretty much everything. Split maybe their one bugaboo. It's a map they don't love to play, but when you compare it, just look at the other numbers. They played Bind 6 times. Let's keep in mind that these maps weren't always in the pool. They were taken out and added back in, so that obviously changes how things were potentially played out across the season. There is a significant amount of overlap, and you can see that as well when you just look at the series these teams have played. They're very likely going to end up on maps they've already played each other on. It's unlikely that we're going to see anything too crazy, with the exception, obviously, of that Bind game where you can see it's a big old goose egg, Tanner. M80 just never showing us what they're working on. That is both scary because they could be amazing on the map, and concerning because they could be terrible on it.
Yeah, I would argue, I don't know. I just always feel like when a team has a perma ban, that is just a map that it's just you ain't hiding nothing, brother. You are not hiding anything. It's just not going to be a good map. So I think you can chalk up that L. I think it just depends on when that comes, because like you mentioned, if Split makes its way through, it's not a great map for the Guard, and it's one that we've seen M80 really elevate their play on with Nismo back on that KO. So it's outside of that one map. I think production was talking to us before it. If M80 in recent series against the Guard, if they win a map, they win the series. That's kind of the thing. If the Guard win, it's in 2-0 fashion. So now that we jump back into the best of 5, M80, if we're sticking to that script, right, they scrape up an early map before Bind makes its way in, and we could absolutely see them kind of, I say shock the world just because they're coming from the lower bracket, but I don't think it'd be too shocking.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a scenario that surprises anyone here, except maybe a blowout 3-0. I think if either team came out and 3-0'd the other in just insane 13-1 fashion, I think that would be the only thing that surprises us. At this point, we should expect to see a pretty close series, even if it ends 3-0, but it's like 13-11, 13-10, 13-10. That wouldn't be that surprising because we've already seen that happen with these teams before. You know, you look at the grand finals between these two teams, the last time they played, it was 3-1 in favor of M80. One of the maps was a 13-1. Everything else was close. So, like, realistically, I don't think there's much that's going to surprise us here. We just hope that we get the series we've wanted. All 5 maps, we want to go the distance.
Yeah, I was so excited to just start the day to see this grand finals of these two particular teams. Like you were saying, I'm expecting it to be a full-on battle between these two teams. I mean, M80 fought their way here. Let's be honest. They fought and fought. They played a lot, and they worked super hard to get it to the grand finals. Whereas on the flip side, the Guard looked incredibly dominant the entire Ascension. So both of these teams are here for slightly different reasons, but we all were expecting to see these two teams be top 2, top 3, and one of them is going to be in franchising. And as we saw in the interviews, they really wanted to fight for that, and I'm expecting extremely close battles today.
To go back to the interviews, a couple different times from Challengers back in North America to now the Ascension tournament here, Nismo has said, we are a team, we learn from our mistakes, we always come back better, and that has proved so incredibly true. You go back to Split 1, they lost to the Guard. In the regular season, they beat him in mid-season face-off. They lost to Shopify in Split 2 in the regular season, they beat him in mid-season face-off. They join this event and lose to the Union, and they beat him to send him home. And now with a loss to the Guard, I mean, this right here would only cement things beautifully for M80.
You have to think of the storylines, too, going back to the start of the year. This M80 roster, the core of them coming from Ghost, a team that a lot of people were surprised to not see picked up by one of the orgs that was announced for franchising. You know, you've actually heard multiple people talk about it, most notably Kaplan, who has pushed this idea that it's amazing that no one thought, hey, we should sign this roster. They're scary good. And now they reform as M80. They make a couple of changes based on the way that players ended up going different directions, and they find themselves here fighting for a spot in the league that some people thought they belonged in all along. And then on the flip side, you have the Guard, a team that actually basically disbanded. If you remember at the end of the season, it was announced which teams would be playing in VCT. The partnership teams were announced. And the Guard, 4 of the players announced that they would be exploring opportunities elsewhere, including their coach as well. Trent was the only one who didn't say anything, and it's already been known that Trent has been approached by multiple teams. But they ended up sticking together, and they both had the same idea in mind, getting to this stage. And as you see, the map's locked in. Lotus and Fracture banned. We've got Ascent, Haven, Bind. And I didn't see that last one there, that 4th map. It's Pearl, which means our final map, should we need it, is the Dastardly Split, a map, Tanner, that we already mentioned. Not exactly the best map for the Guard.
If we go the distance, it looks good for M80, but getting there, not so simple. Ascent and Haven are maps that the Guard have already beat M80 on. It's one that they've gone toe-to-toe a couple of times on. And then Bind is that map 3. So even if we're tied 1-1, the Guard put themselves in a good spot to have that swing map once you start that best of 3, in air quotes, that quote-unquote best of 3, with a win on Bind, then pushing deeper into the series.
You know what's interesting? I'm surprised that Bind wasn't picked as the first map of the series, right? You would expect that because you're setting the pace of a map that is their first ban that we haven't seen them play. So that's interesting for me. But for the first map being Ascent, I think that's okay because, again, it's the Guard's pick, and that's one of their stronger maps. And M80 has a very specific way of playing Ascent that we've seen from them. They love controlling the mains, the extremities. They've also played with 2 different comps that we've seen them do in Split 2, so I'm curious which comp they're going to be picking today. They've tried the triple initiator before. I thought that worked really well for them, but if the Guard's going to want to do well versus M80 on Ascent, they're going to have to watch out for these aggressions that M80 loves to do on the defense.
As we see our agent picks and bans come through, again, we are kicking things off on Ascent. This is a map that M80 plays maybe a little bit differently than other teams. They go with that triple initiator. Okay. And, you know, this is a little bit difficult for teams to deal with. It's been very much a strong setup for them as it really enables Koala Noob to kind of pop off. And then on the Guard, you've got maybe what's considered a little bit more of a stable composition, bringing Killjoy into the fold. No surprise there that Net's going to be playing that one. They do go double initiator in their own right, but I'm really keeping my eyes on those initiators. It's what separates these 2 teams. It is time for our grand finals to begin. 2 North American juggernauts duking it out for 1 spot in VCT. We've got our casters standing by. Dust, Shift, let's get it started.
Oh, it's going to be a good one. It's one that we've seen, like you guys already mentioned, a fair amount of times. So it's going to be a really tested one between these 2 squads based on the history that they have, but of course, the immense pressure of the current situation. As mentioned, I'm Shift. That's Dust. Brother, the comps are as expected. This is just down to who plays better today, it feels like.
Man, I mean, and what a matchup it's going to be, right? I mean, technically these two teams are neck and neck, right? They each own 2 series against each other. This is their now 5th series battling it out. Obviously, maybe you tilt the slight edge of the guard because one of their wins is on land at this very tournament. And so maybe that has a little bit of extra credence to it than the online play. But regardless, this has been the North American rivalry of challengers all year long. The diversity and methodical play of the guard versus the explosive M80, that's very much on brand for their logo and name. And man, it's going to be great to see these two teams clash it out in a best of 5 for all the marbles, man, to see who will get promoted for the next 2 years to VCT. So much on the line, Shift.
Oh, it's going to be a good one, brother. And I think Tanner made up a really good point when we're talking about this map set. The later this pool gets, really after map 3, the pool starts to look great for M80. But the problem is the first 2 maps were maps that the guard just beat M80 on in the upper bracket semis. So is there going to be an opportunity here for M80 to get on top of the guard early, or is this in your mind more of a survive, try to get to map 4, and then all of a sudden the series can start tilting in your favor?
It's going to be tough. I think this is going to be a very momentum-based series, and I think Ascent being the first map is really going to be a big one. It's been a 50-50 map for M80 all year long. Not only have they lost to the guard both times they played them on this map, they've also just generally been a little bit, again, 50-50 on the map across all competition. So meanwhile, the guard has only lost this map once, Shift. They have such a massive record on this map.
All right, well, the winner gets everything. The loser gets nothing. And the first bit of action happening over towards B main immediately. Nice little counter utility coming out, though, from M80, holding on and finding first blood. Shock Dart does find some value here, though, for the offense, and a huge first opener for Tex and the guard. As they make their way on for sight, they get the plant. And Trent actually is trying to challenge this heavy setup for M80 right on top of the doors opening through market. M80 need to make a decision on how they want to try to break this open. Xander gets the first. Now there's information for the guard that there are 2 members playing inside of B main. But how do you clear this out? Someone's got to hit. EU provides the first, not the second. Now the 1v1. John Cutie playing up against Net. And well, Net is actually going to make a perfect timing commitment to get in towards this site. Killjoy using the utility to get down. Timing of this is everything. John Cutie's going to try to hold this, but the shot looks like it will land, and Net will be able to open up with the opening pistol.
What a wild way to kick off these grand finals. Just a slobber knocker of a pistol round, back and forth. It went the entire way. It went from 5-on-5 to 4v4 very quickly on this B executes. Very tough stuff, but Tech stretches a huge entry to allow that spike to go down. This double B main play winds up working out well enough for Net to come up with the hat trick. I feel like Net is very often underrated as a Sentinel player, but he has been doing fantastic in Ascension. He's actually number 2 in KD and number 6 in kills per round and top 10 ACS and ADR. So Net's been on one in Brazil.
You saw the statistics pop up during the pregame show. The guard are unbelievable in pistols, winning over 70% of the pistols through Ascension so far. So that is something we got to keep our eye on throughout the entirety of this best of 5 series. Follow-up round, though, we'll see a pretty heavy amount of purchase still coming out on the other side for M80. You have a Marshall and a couple of Ghosts, so there is some firepower here for M80 on their second defensive attempt.
Indeed, that Marshall and those Ghosts are going to be the ticket to M80 trying to pull one over early on the guard. They're actually stacked in the right location as the guard are indeed looking to gather up and hit this B side, it seems. They do have a lurk still, though, at Tree with Net, who could be an insurance policy on a backstab, or he might even call them over if they start running into trouble.
Oh, Qualinuk does hit the first shot. The guard will back off and then immediately head over towards Tree side. But look at Xander. He hasn't fully moved off this yet. So he will still possess the top side of these ramparts, but can you read this cross as M80 trying to make their way across spawn? Contact is made, and Tex is actually going to be able to work his way in still with the rest of the squad. So the contact for Net not personally great. Xander able to at least put together one. Paranoia out trying to follow up on that, but the offensive Paranoia is there to counter. Tex able to put together a couple of kills amidst the Fallon, and yeah, the cleanup pretty darn solid here for the guard.
Yeah, really well done. Net just got so much information and was able to get in a very key position to hear how many players were rotating over from B, which meant that the guard knew kind of what the numbers were looking like on the A side itself. Xander did a great job hiding under Heaven, getting the Paranoia on Generator, and picking up a couple of frags and keeping things interesting. But in the end, the guard understood the lay of the land, were able to work their way through the situation with the superior firepower, just peeking off each other from generator and making sure that that round never really spiraled out of control. And so they will go up 2-0. Again, this is a map that they have a 12-1 record on for the year. If you also include that Ludwig Tarek Invitational, as well as everything they've done in Challengers, their only loss was to G2. That was 11-13 shift. So, I mean, not much but perfection for the Guard, and particularly it's defensively where they've been their strongest. Near 70% defensive win rate. They're only just over half on attack, but they're already off to a hot start.
Little opening spam coming out for the defense, trying to control B main, and how about that from Nismo? Quality also turns the face up towards the double hit through market. Net does put together 2 in response, but this would have to be a 1v5 for him. And, well, he's going to get completely taken by a 2-member stack here on mid, you would think. Paranoia gets hit. That should be enough for Xander to finish off the kill, and it will be. So M80 get on the board with their first full purchase, and they really don't lose that much in the process either.
Yeah, we kind of just go with the typical bonus pattern as far as economics go, as far as a 2-1 start being displayed, but now we'll have full buy versus full buy. There is the only ult available for the attacking side. That's going to be for Tex. Just nice B main aggression here from M80, able to get the bulk of it. Net was kind of the solo lurk through middle. Gets a couple, but that's really going to be it. Pretty clean win, all things considered, as we get into, again, that first full buy. And again, what you're going to notice is the Guard on this map in particular does like to slow it down sometimes. Just play like a methodical mid-control. They're not as explosive as M80 is. They're very dynamic in how they can play this map. And I think that's what makes them so strong, Shift, is the different styles of VALORANT they're capable of playing, because you never know when that pacing shift is going to happen.
And I think that actually is a huge attributing factor to what their growth looked like throughout the entirety of this year. Because I think you go back to stage 1, you talk about M80, and it's just like, yo, these guys are just going to run at us and just out-frag us. But they've definitely matured a bunch, and maybe taking a couple of things away from the Guard in terms of strategic little setups are concerned, as Quality will get first blood through mid. Does not stop Tex from popping the blades and try to maybe even find a way in. But the control here, honestly, really solid for M80, and Tex still cannot approach with 53 seconds on the clock.
That's the thing about when Guard plays slow like this. M80 are a team that likes to be very proactive. They're going to try to peek you and disrupt you and try to unsettle you. And that's exactly what Quality was able to do off that catwalk push. And they also just got shut down at B main by utilities, and they're trying to make the pivot through tree. There's an A crossfire, though, through this door. And a great stun comes in, and that completely locks Tex down.
Really well done. Quality getting another through the smoke, as now all of a sudden the Guard have to commit through tree door to get in, and the crossfire is so darn good. Last one standing was Valen, but Qualinoob opening up with 1 and then shutting down the initial push here towards A. Tilts the edge in favor of the defense, and M80 have tied us up at 2.
Yeah, big hat trick there from Qualinoob. Again, he was in top 5 in almost every metric for the entirety of Challengers in North America, leading the field in first kills per round and #1 in KD. He's also second place in kills per round in ACS. So far at Ascension, he's in the top 5 in almost every metric except for KD and clutch percentage, where he's still in the top 10. And so he has really been able to carry over a lot of the same form you saw in NA Challengers here to the Ascension stage, and that was a big round for him there to win the opening gun round.
How about this?
And yeah, you're right. Look at this.
A little bit of a hodgepodge buy here for the Guard, but there's a Bucky and knives out for Qualinoob. So talk about a bit of an X factor here, and look at the aggression from M80 taking over all of A. Follow-up smoke allows Qualinoob to exist here completely concealed, and the Guard are essentially trapped right now outside of B main.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just a hard read from M80. Typically, the Guard, when they play a default, there's only one person maybe playing over towards the A side. And so in their mind, they're going to isolate that guy, maybe get the frag, or they're just going to be able to get the map control and the intel and be able to quickly rotate over to B, which is exactly what they've been able to do. And again, the counter utility has been so strong. They're just keeping the Guard choked at main. Net gets through, but with such amount of damage being taken away from him.
And the offensive paranoia has already been spent, so this is just going to be John Cutie trying to hold his life with just the entirety of the utility kit, but Tex still finds the first tap. EU trying to hold on to the site, but it's Joe to best him. And then the follow-up not going to be there at all. Wow, clean entry from the Guard considering the circumstances. And now it's just down to Qualinoob. Well, don't sleep on him, but the right click misses, and Tex will shut it down for the Guard to take the edge.
Yeah, really clean entries there from the Guard. Again, M80 had some good information with that A push, but they were yet to rotate over a 4th player. There's still really only 2 on site in the 3rd floating back hall, so Guard's still able to find a bit of a timing there, as Tex has been absolutely phenomenal for the Guard. Again, he was one of those guys in NA Challengers who's top 5 in every metric throughout the year, and so far here at Ascension, Tex is #1 in first kills per round. He's top 3 in average damage per round and kills per round, as well as ACS and KD. So, I mean, the guy has been an absolute stud in the duelist role for Ascension.
Yeah. Huge round right there for the guard. Kind of tilts the economy back to level terms as the approach immediately gets on towards A. The defense not in position to even contest this in whatsoever. Spike for Valen, now being planted on the default position. And for M80, no ults to try to retake this. This has to be done the hard way. And as the lockdown gets earned, it's immediately spent. M80 have to hold off this retake a little while longer.
Yeah, no way to cancel that out, so they just have to wait it out, which is allowing them to put more and more post-plant utility on top of the spike. Nice kill there from Xander on the flank. That's going to open up a new route for the retake for M80 and make things a little bit tougher on guard.
Prowler also clears out a lot of space just in front of health. Valen still positioned down low, not on a lot of health. Xander gets one, though, as he drops on in. Walladoop mixed up just a touch. Valen's still on 5 HP, but M80 get the full surround. They envelop the site and then capitalize with every single kill. Plenty of time for the defuse. We'll go 3-3.
Really well done there from M80. That flank, I feel, meant everything to them to be able to get into A main, to open up another route onto the A site, not allow the guard to get really settled into the post plant. You figure with that lockdown, with the killjoy utility, they can start backing off into A main, play under heaven as well, and just have really good holding positions. But M80 broke that open with the flank, and they wasted no time just spilling it afterwards. That's the big thing about M80 Shift, is they're so decisive. When they decide to pull the trigger, there is no hesitation. Yeah. And that's one of their big strengths, just being able to gather up together, play off of one another, trust each other is the big thing with trades, and get the job done.
We've got null commands on both sides at the ready for this round number 7. Outside of that, it's just Valen who does have it from the shadows. Qualinoo peeking, finding the first. Prowler's out, hold on a second. No follow-up here from Valen. Really wanted it, but could not quite collect. And with that, we go 5v4. Tex trying to open up some space towards A, but he will not be able to make contact.
Yeah, again, M80 are doing such a good job being aggressive on the periphery of the map against the guard default and finding initiative. But look at this ult, as you said, into window room. I feel like M80 is keen about it. Xander is just barely avoiding this fragment, by the way, but does get taken down by the rifle anyhow. And so the guard get on site with advantage.
And Valen does go 1-for-1 with that teleport, so it gets us to a 3v3. Nightfall at the ready gets immediately spent. Here comes M80 quickly, trying to break down this post plant. They get the first two, no worries. Qualinoo working on the ace. The last player's down low. Trent will find one, but no, Nismo shuts him down, and whoa, we've got fireworks here early for both these two teams. Back and forth we go. M80 up 4-3.
M80 doing work. I mean, the last time they played against the Gar was the Uprise semifinals on this map just 5 days ago. They only got 2 defensive rounds in the second half of that game after having a slow start on the attacking side. We've already seen them surpass that with 3. They've kept this game very close. The economies are very tight for both these teams as well, because these rounds are coming down in these 2v2 side situations. It's getting very intense. Again, I think the big credit I want to give M80 that we're seeing throughout this half so far is how willing they are and how successful they have been in playing against the guard's default by challenging the edges of the map where they think that they might be able to find a 1v1 or maybe even a 2v1, and then use that to get information to understand what the guard's trying to focus on. The thing is, though, we have seen the guard already once this half pull the trigger on a pacing change with the very fast execute and get the job done because of it. And you never know when that's coming. M80, again, are a very well-rounded team when it comes to, you know, playing the defaults and mid-rounding and just using team play by manipulating rotations or pulling the trigger on a fast set piece with good utility usage. So that's going to be a battle that you're going to see all series long, really, is just kind of trying to play that mental chess. As the other Death said, these teams have played, you know, 4 official series against each other already. This is their 5th series, not to mention, you know, potential practice that may have taken place at some point. And so it's going to come down to mind games.
Absolutely, it will. And the thing about those mind games is in which rounds are they most prevalent. And just looking at how the statistics have built out, there really is not much to separate these two teams. When they're at full purchase, both teams are incredible. They're the top 2 teams when it comes to being at full buy win percentage. So that's where you feel like I think the critical rounds and the possibility of turning a tide is going to exist here for both these two squads. Who can find a way to kind of command the full buy rounds, get themselves to an eco advantage, even marginally so. And that doesn't just equip to their weapons as well. That's also something we got to keep in mind for things like ultimates down the road too.
I think the other big thing that these two teams have done throughout this tournament is both of them are near 40% success rate in 4v5s.
Yeah.
So even a man down, both these teams have been able to find ways back into the round, which means no round's going to be easy. It's going to be a battle all the way through, but we wouldn't want to have it any other way considering what's on the line. As we see a big market pressure here. Does get one.
He was hoping for more, though, with the stinger out. The Oppo also very aware at its position through mid. John just gets through the dark cover completely unbeknownst by Valen. Jonah P try to tap away at this, but he will not be able to connect, and with that, we'll go to a 4v3 situation, make it a 4v2 as Jonah P also drops M80, looking good as they just take over the map, and now the spike is down, and Nat has nowhere to go but to fall. 5-3, M80, a little bit of daylight here as we get to the late stages of this first half.
Yeah, kind of an expected result. Not really anything invested in that round for the guard, but now they should be back to a full buy. They have a couple of ults in play, and I'm curious to see what their call is going to be after that timeout as far as how they want to approach this next round. I mean, again, they're a well-rounded team. They have really well-orchestrated set pieces for both sides if they want to go fast early. They also are very good at slowing things down and playing that kind of multi-pressure, challenging market and tree simultaneously and leaving their options open and mid-rounding from there. But look at this koala noob. They just don't want to give guard any space, man.
Yep, and that's going to force the guard to have to commit through mid. Valen thinking about just putting his little shadow step right on in towards the point. Xander through tree shuts down the Aldrome, but can't contest any further. Now the counter utility from the guard as they try to set up their plan. Rolling Thunder pops out, knives for Tex in the back line, but it's all about this action from the front of the moment, and it goes 2 for 1 in favor of M80's defense. Jonah P, though, very well, may have to couple in his sights, and he does. Gets 3 in total. Fourth one up top, how about it? The guard will hold on amidst the Rolling Thunder and get us back to within 1.
And again, that's the team play of the guard coming through. They realize the pressure that they are feeling at mid and B, and so they immediately call the reaction, and everyone's on the same page to make it happen as once. A big round for Jonah P in general. Normally not one that you talk about as like a star of the team, but a very good support element. He's always been very good in clutch situations. And actually in Ascension, he's number 4 in KD ratio on top of being number 6 in clutches. So he has actually stepped it up quite a lot here on LAN. As Tanner called him Jonah Playoffs, he has definitely been doing really well for the squad in that supportive role.
Yeah, that one got me tickled a little bit. So we go into round number 10, 5-4 the count. The guard, a big round there, but again, being pressured, stretched out at M80. Find more aggression, leading to success, this time through B main. And how about the pre-fire from Xander? Takes down Tex, that's your big entry for the guard down. Null command at the use, but no, not gonna find entry here. John Cutie shutting things down. Jonah P, the last one left. And this would be a technical 1v5 if you were to find a way to clutch this.
Not seeing that happening. The only thing he really has on his side is a gun and time. That's about it. He's got 9 health, no spike possession. I mean, saving this rifle even seems like it's unlikely. I imagine M80 will give chase. They have enough credits to, you know, try to get this rifle off the board, keep, you know, the guard having to rebuy or even potentially save. Xander's going to get a great off angle here. He's going to be able to find that. So, yeah, no rifle save for Jonah P. Another dominant round win for M80, surviving with 3 players. This has been one of their best ascent performances, I should say, really all year. Again, defensively speaking, they win about maybe half their rounds, but it's the tempo at which they're winning these rounds and how quickly they're jumping ahead. Like, this is the cleanest we've seen them on this defense, in my opinion.
It almost feels a lot like the same story we saw yesterday, and they're 2 different 2-0s. It's just they're getting away with everything right now.
Right.
And that is a massive issue for the guard, who now very well may be tested by Quality with an op at mid. Oh boy, dark cover comes through, but the guard are fully stacked here. There's the check. First shot lands, and Qualinoob will get out of there. Huge first blood again for M80.
And I mean, that's a big thing. The guard are used to being able to get mid control and challenge this cat and tree position off their default. That's one of their strengths on Ascent. They've done it all year long. But M80 have made it a point to challenge off of catwalk so often this game, Shift. And I think that adjustment, that read that they are putting into play has netted them so many opening picks. And it has rattled the guard. It has not let them get comfortable in these rounds. Like, sure, they've been able to call some like audible quick pushes to get some rounds on the board, but I feel like every round has been stressful for them.
And it's not even just like the round in full is stressful. It's as soon as the barriers drop. They're stuck here at B main. It's like, are they going to peek us from main? Are they going to peek us through mid doors? Or are they going to peek us through cat? It's come from so many different angles, and now Qualinoob has the benefit of his team's utility to make these shots even easier. And the guard look like they will fall here. on just largely pistols, but there were a couple of hero weapons that were purchased this round, so
sure.
We'll go into the last round of the half with a significant advantage for M80.
30 seconds left.
Again, go look at the Guards match against Union, or go look at several of their other Ascension matches that they've played this year. You will see how often they're able to just control the map early,
big time, in the half.
and then be able to test themselves into tree or test themselves into market and run the site splits from there in the mid round, or call the audible, go for the quick play, throw some pacing changes in there, keep their opponents guessing.
Yeah,
they have not been able to do that so far today. M80 have been the ones dictating the pace every single round. It has been pedal to the metal. They have varied where they push from. They have typically always found success, or at the very least shift, even when they don't succeed, they've never really been punished. You know what I mean? Like they're able to get back and just play normal from there after the initial feint.
Well, this will be a very explosive round number 12. The knives are already out for Qualinoob, still trying to get aggressive through B main with his operator. Prowler in the midst. Aldrone is there, but Paranoia will force M80 to get back out of this area. But the Hunter's Fury actually thrown a little bit more passively, and the jump up from Qualinoob follows up with the EU to go 2 for 1 in the opening exchange. And again, the Guard cannot find initial entry. Lockdown will be spent. This will be the square peg meeting the round hole, unless, of course, John Cutie can just spam out the lockdown, which he does. The Guard will have to rethink.
Yeah, it's a 3v3 situation, but don't count the Guard out. They're usually pretty good about figuring situations out. I know this half so far has been a bit of a rough ride, but they are always dangerous when they have time left on the clock and they have equal numbers and they have some time to work things out, talk things through, work together. Valen, though, gonna get caught by John Cutie's Odin there, and Jonah P already on low health is just kind of stuck on an island in the middle.
Yep.
The spike, he can't even feel comfortable reaching for it because he might get caught in the cross for all he knows, and he has to kind of just wait for Net to get in position to see if they can try to work something out together.
30 seconds left.
The problem here is you've got a long lurk from Nismo. Jonah P, like you mentioned, is completely stuck. That was seen over towards market. Tapping away is Nismo, but he actually misses on a very low HP Jonah P, and all of a sudden, the spike will be collected, the fault line gets avoided, and there's actually a chance here. Or is there? Qualinoob up in hand says, not today, friends. Last one left is Net, and he will be diced up by knives. An 8-4 half. Absolute chef's kiss from M80 in the first half.
That has been about their best defensive score the entire year. There was a couple of times online where they were able to get 9 defensive rounds against some of the, I'll say, quote-unquote, weaker teams in North America. But to get 8 against Guard on LAN on a map they have beaten you on both times you played it this year. By the way, both of those wins, not insanely lopsided, but they did not allow M80 double digits in either of those games. It was 13-8 and 13-7. So to see M80 come out flying with 8 defensive rounds, and that's after losing pistol and going down the normal bonus pattern, that's big, man.
They never had to save, massive. Dust. They never had to save.
That's very, very key.
So now we go into another key pistol. Talked about the statistic earlier. The Guard, well over 70% win rate through Ascension, and they need it badly here.
Yeah, they are a
full
super
stack through mid. EU in position through the dark cover, possibly to find some timing here. Can he land the shots, though? That's the biggest problem. And, well, as Net also provides a couple of kills, at least some damage on the backside to kind of keep this M80 play pretty well, I would say, claustrophobically put on towards A. Sure, they'll get the spike plant, but this is a very difficult 4v5 situation. Couple of battle back moments, and Nismo off the quick reload actually may all of a sudden turn things in the favor of M80 just when you thought that they were trapped. Couple of key gunfights come out, and M80 take these pistol in the second round.
I thought they were in a little bit of trouble after that initial mid push didn't work, and they missed out on a couple of kills on Catwalk. I mean, I thought, that B-Link push had everything written all over it, but it wound up getting foiled. But nonetheless, M80 get on site, get spiked down, and went out at a man disadvantage, surviving with 3 players when it was all said and done. Very well done. Again, the Guard typically good for around 7 defensive rounds minimum. We've seen plenty of games where they've hit in 10, 8, 9. They've always had high defensive win rates. So to see them start off behind after already going down low in the first half it's a rough sign. We'll see if they can recover.
Couple of pistol upgrades here by the look of it for the Guard. Double stack crossfire also right through Boathouse, and Valen able to help save 1 life, but the trades are good. Trent, little delayed peek. That works out, and the numbers stay to a 3v3. Trent's little jumping right clicks also creating some damage. Tech's trying to follow up on that. Oh, thought for sure to get EU dead to rights. Well, we get into a 1v2 situation. Net with a Sheriff. And what seems to be 2 low health pools for M80. And he'll upgrade. He's got a Vandal now. First taps. Whoa, what a shot that is from EU. Gets Net down to half HP.
Destroyed.
Sentry turret will only find so much. Can he get any other utility into the site? Here's the check. No, Xander watching it, collects the kill, and it's gonna be 10 early for M80.
Yeah, you got a little bit concerned for M80 perhaps when you saw Net pick up the rifle and have such a big health pool advantage. And again, Net, certainly a strong clutch player in these types of situations, but M80 able to hold on now up to 10 rounds going into their bonus. Now they do have to rebuy on 3 players, so that will indeed limit what type of capabilities they're going to have on a bonus round like this. As you can see, it's slim pickings, a bunch of stingers, a Spectre, just a 1 rifle on Koala Noob. I feel like Garden need this round.
Oh, they badly
so
do.
Desperately.
Yeah, and it's not even just need to win it. You need to win it cleanly here, just to get your bank account starting to feel a little bit more secure. Koala Noob, first contact. No, doesn't quite hit the shot. Tries to get the one-way. How does he do that? Fallon, the peak is a little bit too delayed, but Net and Jonah P pick him up, and that'll be a 2-for-1 trade favor in the defense.
Need it will. Nismo wasting no time, pushing the smoke at door to grab a frag to equalize things. Back to a 3 versus 3 as a spike goes down. He is low on health now, though.
No.
But Xander with the stinger catches Tex up top. And now the spike is able to plant, and the man advantage sits with M80.
And it's going to be so difficult to work through this. Trent, 2 shock darts at the ready. First one pretty well placed. But no, Net trying to find a timing to peak. Not going to work out. Now the paranoia is through, and Trent is completely stuck. Gonna have to make this thing sing a bit of a song.
Wow.
And no, does not transfer. M80 pull off the anti-eco, get their bonus in, and now they're up 11-4, where you would assume that the guard are gonna have to save again.
Yeah, this is a tough spot here, because it's like, do you want to force buy and try to challenge M80 and not give them a free map point, or do you need to just try to play for OT by saving, or do you go a halfway approach? I mean, those are the options you must weigh as M80. I mean, are just taking care of this half in trademark fashion, aren't they, Shift? The explosiveness that they are so well known for. I mean, Quality wasted no time looking for a brawl, and Cat, he goes even, but he holds attention there as well, and that allows M80 to get through main and on site, and then they just go nuts from that point forward. Again, that is where M80 are their most dangerous. When you give them breathing room, when they're allowed to flex their muscles and, you know, show you that pace, they are so comfortable in those chaotic moments on sites. They are so trusting in each other. Their spacing is so good, and they just trade their way out even with the inferior firepower, so to speak, of the SMGs there. And this is dangerous because, I mean, this is the first map of the series. The guard dictated the entire pace of the pick ban coming from the upper bracket.
Oh, yeah.
Again, this is a map that has been, I would argue this is the guard's best map, period. Just in general, forget who they're playing against. They have been so dominant on this map. Only 1 loss. Mid-season face-off to G2, 11-13. They have dominated everyone else. They rarely allow their opponents double-digit shift.
Yeah.
And right now, they are way behind.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're getting bested in their own type of play style, it feels like, for the most part. Just not able to find a way to get those mid-round rotates over, and that we always give them tons of credit for. And now all of a sudden you're down to pistols. You're likely facing down the barrel of what should be a match point situation, or map point rather, situation here for M80. And they've already got some mid-map control. There could be a check here on towards Net. The knife should surely reveal this. And yeah, Koalin's gonna sit here and try to see if he can catch some timing, but it's actually Nismo to stop the aggressive play from the guard deep towards A.
Yeah, I think M80 are doing a good job realizing that the guard are either saving and rolling the dice, or they're force spot, and so they don't want to do anything too crazy. They want to play smart and careful. But oh, as I say that, the Sheriffs are starting to come through. Net and Trent good for a couple. Xander at least able to grab 1 back. He's going to ult back B, make sure the side is clear. The Spike will be able to swing, but there is market presence here.
Yes, there is.
That's a great stun, though, on Net to allow them, with that smoke as well, to actually get through with the Spike.
Oh, and they delete the Nano Swarm. Extra utilities to make sure nobody peeks through that dark cover. So the Spike will make its way on, and it will plant. On the retake attempt, you still have 1 member sitting in towards market. The rest of the guard are hitting through the defensive side spawn. A bit of a reveal off Trent's utility that there is 1 member playing over, and the taps are starting to land. The guard are pulling this one back. It's just down to 1 in the corner, and the Guardian will find the final 2. How about that for the guard?
Really well done from the guard. Getting those 2 picks with the Sheriff gave them a way open. It cracked the door. just a little bit. M80, I thought, responded pretty well at Xander ulting to the back of the site. They were able to counter the utility to get up sidewalk and get that spike into B and have a 3-on-3 post plant. But they just got picked apart from that point forward. Trent and Jonah P, huge frags from the two of them to bring that one back. And now it's big because the guard elected not to invest on that round, despite the fact that they could have been conceding map point. And they come out on top with the Thrifty. And so they get both. They get to have their cake and eat it too, baby.
Yep.
I mean, that is exactly what they needed to get back into this.
And the cherry on top is you've got the Hunter's Fury still at the ready and a number of other key defensive ultimates that are right on the fringe of being earned.
Right.
Most importantly, the lockdown null command very close to being in play here. So the guard have the ability to get some ults online and possibly continue this little stretch.
To M80's credit, though, they're back onto a full buy. They have Rolling Thunder and they have null command. So they have their own powerful punch that they can pack at a moment's notice, as they're, again, wasting no time setting up for an aggressive A split again. That up-tempo playstyle is what they are known for. As soon as their alarm bot gets broken, they set forward.
Hunter's Fury just trying to clean out Catwalk, does not connect. Null command is spent. Net stays away from this engagement, so he's still behind this play at tree. It's Xander who's nearby, as the rest of M80 have found their way on a brilliant reveal, though, coming out. Allows Trent a lot of information as far as what this post plant could look like. But the contest will not happen yet. We stay 5v5. Rolling Thunder gonna get spent here from the offensive side just to make sure this defense gets a little bit more tested, but Trent finds the first blood. Net getting another one. Waldip trying to slip on through, but no, can't make any good on any connections. So now all of a sudden the lockdown's in play. The guard haven't dropped a member yet. 5v3 situation. John Cutie considering the fault line, then puts it away, and then the over-aggressive setup from the guard floods forward, and M80 can find nothing as Zenny Flawless comes through as the guard get their sixth.
Man, what a wild ride of a round that was. You were liking M80's chances, just how they were able to get onto site clean, get spiked down. I believe that was a clean 5-on-5 post plant to start off with. They didn't lose anything along the way.
Yes, it was.
But lo and behold, the guard able to catch M80 trying to be proactive, pushing tree with that Rolling Thunder, as well as they were looking to be aggressive and fight heaven. They didn't want to just rest on their laurels and play the 5-on-5 post plant passively. They were trying to force the issue at heaven and tree, and they lost on both fronts, and that cost them everything. Whether you want to call that a mistake or whether you just want to call that, you know, a good idea that just they didn't quite execute as well as they needed to, either way, it has now cracked the window just a touch further.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden, the guard are right back in the mix. That's why you're seeing M80 call the timeout. Happy, of course, a veteran in TAC FPS from the French scene. It's been helping this team all year long. It's actually very fitting because Happy himself, when he was an IGL in TAC FPS, he was a lurker. He was a very slow player, but he was very fond of the 1-4 setups where he would kind of lurk by himself and, his other 4 teammates would be the ones kind of, pushing quick, getting fast map control, setting up executes, and he would kind of be that guy that would kind of backstab or cut off rotates or be that character. So I feel like it's only fitting that this M80 team coached by him is a very aggressive team.
Yeah.
It just suits what I feel like the players want and what their strengths are. And again, it's like Happy's background in TAC FPS if you're unfamiliar with them. It's actually kind of funny when I watch M80 play and I realize, oh, Happy's their coach. Makes perfect sense.
Well, we're off the timeout and back into things. And Operator's out for Texas. The first time he's been able to afford it this map so far, which is rare to see in round 18. Flash out, M80 trying to get aggressive through mid, and they will collapse. Joda P, the first one to drop. More possibly though on the way. Trent's gonna throw out a recon dart just to try to keep this under contest, and the shock dart takes a ton out of EU's health pool. Can't say for sure if the weapon got collected or not, but any further pressure for M80 to continue through middle is immediately shut down.
That was a wild aggressive push from M80 just to create space in middle, kind of split open the angles and then find a frag. Really well done. And now they will gather together for explosion on A. There's a lot of Killjoy utility though in position. The problem is there's not really a rotate in any form or fashion even setting up yet.
Yeah, it's
for the guard. So it's all on Net, who will probably just have to back off and play for retake unless he can use his utility and grab a quick pick.
Yeah, there's the fault line. The rest of the offensive utility, very wisely, Net will back away. So free entry on the way in, and oh boy, Valen has gotten behind with the from the shadows. Never seen out by Nismo, and now the guard collapsed from the front. John Cutie only getting one in response. He's deep towards A. Arch is not going to make a difference. And all of a sudden, the guard have shown up in this map.
Indeed, they have. Valen was so quick on that alt shift. He wasted no time. The moment that they took sight and Net felt the pressure, Valen called the shot to sneak in the back lines with this alt. It did not get picked up on quick enough at all. He gets Nismo. Again, that opens up an additional route for the retake, and they get it done real clean. And the guard are fighting back. They've won the last 3 in a row. The separation is down to just 4 rounds, and if this buy does not work for M80, they may have to consider saving.
Agreed.
And that could be where the guards start putting themselves back in striking distance. Their economy is starting to get quite healthy, by the way. Starting to see some of the reserves that they have. They're looking good.
Opening utility again defensively allows Trent to get the Odin in play through mid, oddly enough. Follow-up knife from M80 will, of course, scout out that it is just Trent that's here, and M80 will reconsider, saying, all right, you want to use you want to use the Odin over towards mid. We'll put some pressure over towards B, see if we can force some rotations out.
Yeah, you're seeing M80 in a situation where the guard are looking to play B lobby heavy. They're just relying on the alarm bot to cover their middle, and they're just trying to make sure they maintain B lobby control. They're also playing double up on tree, and so again, a lot of weight is just kind of on that alarm bot to kind of guard middle while they cover everything else with numbers. Jonah P actually going to get aggressive with a little bit of a pop flash. Does get some damage onto Nismo there. Immediately going to call him to call the null command, and that's just to try to slow M80 down, to kind of deter them from wanting to push it any further that direction.
Yep.
Is it a knife for info here in a second, too?
Yeah, the thing about it was M80 really weren't set up in an effort to hit that, so they kind of pull out the null command early. Still 35 seconds on the clock here, and you have to make a decision if you are M80. Nightfall cuts across market. You still have Net, though, trying to contest through B main. M80 have not committed to this play to B, though. But the thing is, you've got the operative techs in position over towards A. Now, all of a sudden, M80, they're trying to repivot back over towards B. They may not know how deep Net has gotten through B main. There's still a chance for Valen to maybe catch one on this cross as well, depending on how deep they go. But John Cutie gets the first. Spike makes its way on. No chance to stop this plant, and we're going to reset into a 4v3.
Spike planted.
And I feel like they have to know that Net is in main now, just based on his utility being triggered, but it may not matter, knowing half the battle as Tex has already found one with the knives, and that is a 2-man advantage now for guard. Make it everything.
Just down to Kuala-Noob, and Tex will run forward onto him. 3 in the round for Tex. All of it by way of the knives, and we've got ourselves a map.
We indeed do. That's going to put the guard to 8 within 3. M80 with that spike plant do have buying options, though, so they're not completely out of it yet. They can still keep purchases rolling. This is one of those rare rounds where M80 kind of got stuffed across the board and were forced to slow down. You rarely see M80 making their final push onto a site with only about 20-25 seconds left. They're normally, able to hit in the early round or mid round at the latest, but the guard able to bog them down and eventually come out with a brilliant retake here. Tex with another multi-frag, as again, he has been perhaps the best player in Ascension. If you're just going by raw stats, I mean, he's top 5 in almost every metric for the tournament, and that was a big-time hat trick there.
Standing ahead.
Huge round, but still, M80 had the economy to purchase. Oh, spam works out. That's the knives off the table for Kuala-Noob, and an early 5v4 for the guard.
That's some nostalgia right there. Trent plus Odin plus Ascent plus wall spam. I mean, where have we seen that before? So many times. As he is the one and true Sova of North America in many ways, and he's not done yet. That's another onto Nismo. He's pushed back, but he's not bothered, but the frags are starting to pinstripe a little bit, but Tex reeling it back in.
Yeah, I thought for sure that Trent was going to be safe, but the aftershock must have just been able to connect onto him. So M80 get on for the plant. EU's going to play off-site and over towards mid-market. The guard looking to go 2 for 1 here. 2 players to the defensive spawn, Net on screen, trying to make his way through B main. EU is currently watching this angle, but this is all about what they see, what they hear. There's the push-up, but Net all collapses perfectly. EU gets caught off guard. Now it's just down to John Cutie. The status effects of the Rolling Thunder off the table. John gets 1, but no way he turns and burns there. And it's going to be an 11-9 tally. The guard's starting to really cook with some gas.
We told you the guard are good on defense, bro. 70% defensive win rate on this map across the entire year with a 12-1 record overall on the map. They are so damn good on Ascent, and you can never count them out on this map. Even when they were behind, you always got to know that their defense could come through and bail them out. That was such a brilliant reaction from Net when the Rolling Thunder came through to peek and kind of keep his teammates safe who were in back halls and grab himself a frag. As we see the Brazilian crowd, they might not have a team on this stage. They're certainly still having a good time out there, which we appreciate.
This is it. This is the last time out.
Indeed. And happy.
This should be a save here for M80.
Yeah. It very well could be some type of mixed buy just to give them like a slight edge. They are a team that likes to do that. You know, they are a team that's very resourceful. Even with low weaponry, they can still make some big plays happen. You know, you give them a upgraded pistol, a stinger, something along those lines, they can still potentially sneak one across. So I wouldn't be shocked if they go with some type of approach like that. But as you said, it could also very well just be a straight up save. As the breathing room is starting to become a situation of claustrophobia. I mean, there is not much space left now for M80. Again, they were up at one point, I want to say 10-4, I think is where they were at.
I think you're right.
And
they won the pistol and the follow-up, Yep.
So it has been 5 in a row, though, for the guard, all on retakes. And they actually are able to get pretty much a full buy through this round, M80, including an operator on Koala Noob. It's just the Guardian for John Cutie is really the only discrepancy. I think EU also has a Guardian.
Yeah. Koala Noob maybe catch the guard a bit off guard with this operator. Check on. What? How does Tex connect onto that? I mean, he was more than late to the party. And still...
He might have been late to the party, but he arrived with the goods. You know what I mean? So, like, people forgive you for that. People forgive you whenever you bring the goods, even if you're late. You know what I'm saying? And Tex, he had everything that you wanted.
Oh, my goodness.
If you're Koala, you got to just be like, man,
bruh.
I got diffed right there.
Yeah, for real.
You got to respect it. That's again, Tex has been a behemoth in Ascension. He's been one of the strongest duelists in NA all year.
Absolutely has been. So now M80 have to consider what they want to do in a 4v5, and the early insinuation here, Dust, is that they want to approach B, but again, Tex is waiting.
Godspeed.
Yeah.
That's really all I can say about it. The Killjoy utility's here. Tex has an angle with the operator from stairs. He can easily just take the shot, fall back if need be. They can play together on site. The only issue is there's no rotation in place yet. So they could get overwhelmed. Could's a keyword.
Yep. Nanostorm delays the hit a little bit further. Rotation on the way. Flash is coming through. Tex has made its way on towards side. Nope, not going to miss that one. Second chance. The flick not going to quite land. Nismo's able to put him down. Net still holding deep, and Trent has made his way over with the Odin. Look at the reveal coming out from the Sova utility. Oh my. 11-10 to count. The guard. This time, no need for a defuse. They stop it at the front door.
Bro, they have taken this map. They've drawn up the drawbridge. They've dug the moat. They are guarding this castle, my man.
Enemy kill.
It has been a brilliant comeback from the guard here defensively on Ascent. Again, very much their home map, very much their best match, statistically speaking. Their defense has always been kind of the, you know, anchor that has kept them going. You can see them hyped up. They realize what they have done here. They have brought this thing within a round. M80 just force buying stingers. That's all they can do here. Very likely a tie game. Oh.
Prediction of the Hunter's Fury is really solid, but no connections for the kill. Just got Nismo down to half HP.
At least slows M80 down, forces him to redirect a little bit. All this owl drone's gonna get a lot of intel, but the stun is gonna cause problem. They're trying to chase it, but net playing bodyguard. And again, it's the guard team play coming through for a big frag.
Unbelievable. Trent sees the information, backs away, and Net does it again as Tex had no room to dash any further away. So now it's just down to Nismo. And nope, nothing there. Another Zenny flawless, and the guard have brought it back to level terms.
My goodness, Shift. We were hoping for a banger of a grand final. We felt like all the pieces were on the board to have one. You have this amazing NA rivalry between the Guard and M80 that has lasted all year long. The Guard won the initial matchup in Split 1. M80 gets their revenge in the midseason face-off and in the grand finals of Challengers to go up 2-1 overall and declare themselves #1 in North America. But then the Guard and the upper bracket here on land in Brazil tie the series back up 2 apiece, and now they're looking to take it a step further after tying the game up here.
Oh, flashed. But Jonah P pushing through B main with assistance. Does trade off one. EU has to be able to get both of these. Gets the first. The fault line lands. Oh my goodness. Trent still furthers the play out though. We get 2v2 situations with the spike down right in front of Trent Zoden.
He's kind of isolated though. His rotate's off. He's got to be very careful here. And oh, John Cuty's found that's going to be the spike reclaim. That's going to put Net in a 1 versus 2. He does have lockdown, and that could be interesting. But I don't know if it will have crazy value. And oh, maybe trying to fake him out a little bit with that ult, but he's not buying it.
Nope, not at all. So now Net gets forward through mid-market. Has already pushed through doors. John Cuty on the corner, backs up. Lockdown gets placed. And it's gonna force M80 to have to exit the site. First flash gets avoided. Net on the corner, no, nothing. The team shot's too good. And M80 get back within the lead, and now back to map point.
Yeah, that's a tough situation if you're Net, because indeed the lockdown does force them to come off of site, but it also allows them to pair up and push you together for a trade. So it can really go either way in those situations. Like, it's unlikely they're gonna split up and give you 1v1s. They're gonna just push together, and so I don't want to say that backfired, but it just makes it a lot harder. I think if he would have played maybe a different spot to try to single out 1v1s, but he was playing like a crazy off angle, just kind of gambling that they would come sidewalk and hoping that they wouldn't play together.
Yeah.
And neither one happened there. And so finally the momentum has been halted.
Scramble towards middle at the moment. Haunts out, but it's shown a peek at the first couple. Xander battles back, but only gets one of what was 3 trades that come out. Guard in a perfect position off their opening break off, now in a 4v2 early to try to get us to OT.
Well, if you thought that last round rattled them at all, it definitely didn't. Their composure is still as stoic as ever. Into a 4v2 very quickly after that mid exchange. We're going to see the ult from Valen to get some info at A main. Sees nothing there. Knows that it has to be mid or cat at this point, as they do have B lobby being watched by Trent. Net is solo on the A site. But he does have a little bit of utility that will be an early detection system.
Defense not moving yet. Just one dark cover for Net to use. There's the contact. Net doesn't get anything. Backs up in towards Hell. Paranoia does land into John Cuty. Aftershock clears out boxes. Xander, can he pop off right here, right now? Dark cover gets replaced. Net hears a lot of this. Actually gets tagged through the dark cover. Tries to work his way in. John Cuty gets the first one, and they reset. Tex with a shorty out, shut down. Xander's gonna get another. It's all down to Trent for a 1v2 situation. Odin in hand, one shock dart. Shock dart gets queued. Tossed out. Xander watching on the cross, and Xander gets 4 in total of the round. A 2v4 situation turned around by M80 to strike first in map number 1.
What a crazy way to end it. M80 on top early and look to be steamrolling towards the finish line, but then the Guard pulls out all the stops on a defense that they are so strong on, and they bring it all the way back to 11-11. And then you start to wonder, are we gonna see overtime? Are we gonna see the complete comeback from the Guard on the pick and actually find the W? You know, you don't really know which way it's gonna go, and then it's the final 2 rounds right before the Guard are about to cross the tape, man, that we see M80 figure out those final 2 rounds. That final round, to be fair, very chaotic. You're playing a 2v2 basically inside of a smoke in hell. Like, who knows who's going to come out on top in that close quarters battle? But ultimately, it is going to be Xander finishing it off with a quad kill, as Xander has been, he might be their best player at this tournament right now. Like, the way that he is playing, he's, you know, number 2 in ACS. He's top 5 in almost every other metric. I mean, we know how strong of a controller he is, and boy, what a finishing statement from him in that one.
Huge finish for sure, but I actually think that this starts, at least conversationally, on the first half. How good were M80 defensively? And we talked about it a couple of different times. We just had not seen M80 necessarily do what they did here when it comes to defense. They were controlling every bit of space that they wanted to. The Guard didn't have anything really to work with at all. And outside of the pistol and the follow-up, I mean, the Guard really didn't put together anything save 1 round with stingers, I want to say.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it was a masterclass of defense from both sides. And I mean, in particular, credit where it's due. The guard makes an incredible comeback with all the pressure on them on the stage. You know, they're the ones that have the massive advantage in the pick ban. You know, they bring it to their home map, Ascent. It's probably the one map besides, well, Bind, because M80 never has played it, where you feel like the guard probably have the biggest advantage. Again, they've already beat this team twice on it as well. So just like everything seemed to be in the guard's favor. And then you see the opening score line after the first half. You're like, wait a second. You know, have we got it wrong? But then the guard kind of brings back a little bit of faith to people with the comeback effort. But again, they just could not put the finishing touches on it. They couldn't dot the I's and cross the T's. The guard ultimately fall prey to M80, making some magic happen in the final 2 rounds, and they're up 1-0.
Big stuff. Well, with that, it is just map number 1. Haven waits for us for map number 2, but M80 may have done enough already to start to build this series layout towards their favor. That'll do it for us here for map number 1. Back over to Bach and the desk as they break down their reactions, thoughts, and of course set us up for map number 2.
Oh, baby. I am sweating and I'm just watching the game. That was one intense map 1, probably the most intense we've had yet, as it looked like M80 had that game well within their grasp. But then the guard switches over to the other side and suddenly things are not so certain. The guard on the defensive side with a very defense-oriented composition almost claws it back. And Tanner, even watching that final round, oh my God, the 4v2, like that was so incredibly winnable.
I mean, they chucked it, man. They just threw it all away. They had both of them trapped underneath. They sent way too many players. I said it while we were kind of all just chatting during the game. I'm going to say it again. The guard, their car looked broken down. They said, screw it, we're going to walk. And they started to make it towards their destination. And then they just, I don't know, said, never mind. Or they went to knock on the door and their friend wasn't home. That last round is so heartbreaking. And what I guess hurts the most is you could chalk up the first little bit of that to, you know, them getting comfortable, the nerves and stuff. Then we start to see them heat up, and then they iced themselves at the end.
I think a part of it, though, and it needs to be spoken about, the composition that M80 brings to the table is the type of composition that you have to play aggressively with on the defensive side. You don't have that dedicated side anchor. You don't have that KJ or Sentinel utility to help slow down a push. You're really relying upon space taking and preventing your opponent from gaining control. M80 did exceptionally well at that. They consistently pushed in B main, forcing the guard away. If you actually watch, the rounds that the guard won were mostly towards the B site. They went A a lot because that B main aggression would scare them away. There'd be potentially someone on cat. They'd get a free pick. It's a 4v5 in favor of M80. And then they're trying these A site execs with broken economy because their money was never really in that good of a spot. M80 pretty much had that one on lockdown. But then the tides turn. The guard switches over to the defense, and it's a completely different story.
Yeah, and this is how M80 has to play Ascent with a triple and a shooter comp, like you were saying. They love to control the extremities, love denying A main or B main control, as we could see that was happening. And that's one of the reasons why they wanted to start on the defensive side. Statistically, they are very, very strong on defense for Ascent in specific because of their comp. And they did such a good job on denying control of the mains. But also, they had to be afraid of middle, the guard, because you don't know where the opera was going to be from Koala. He was doing a really good job of making mid presence, but also we saw him push through a cat smoke, peeking into tile, getting those opening picks. We were talking about it pregame too, of the amount of first bloods that Koala really excelled in terms of comparison to Tex, and we saw that here today.
Koala was playing disrespectful Valorant. This guy was just, I mean, he was just doing Koala things. That is what we talk about, or that is what we mean when we say Koala doing Koala things. He had help a handful of times, but then there are other times where this guy is 2 4Ks and a 3K into the game, and he's just like, all right, whatever. Like, I'm hot. I'm not stopping. I'm going to push through that smoke. I'm going to find that kill. I liked that the guard started to mix it up. They understood that they weren't winning their ones. They weren't winning slow around the maps because of the aggression that you talked about, at least on the attacking side for the guard. Then they try to play chaos. They try to play crazy. They try to just 5-man hit sites, and nobody knows crazy like M80 know crazy. So eventually M80 catch on and say, hey, we know how to play that game perfectly.
We were also talking about the pistols pregame, right? And the guard won the first pistol in the first half.
Yeah.
But it ended up being an 8-4 half. So that just shows of how strong M80 is on defense. It didn't matter that they lost the first 2 rounds. Then we swapped over and they won the pistol, M80. So we were talking about the importance of that and setting the pace, but it ended up being 10-4, right? And then we started to see a comeback from the guard. It was looking scary. And again, going back to that last round, how did they lose that? Net was doing such a good job on staying alive, allowing his team to come forward, and they just had to stay composed and take it to OT. It was so close, and I think that's just showing us of how this whole series is going to be today.
While the guard is likely disappointed that things don't go to overtime, the amount of resiliency it takes to go from a 10-4, 11-4 scoreline to tie things up illustrates that this team has what it takes to reset after a first map loss and come into map 2 like it's a fresh series. That's exactly what they need to do if they want to try to take this one to the victory they've been wanting since day 1 of Challengers. We're going to go ahead and throw things to a break. When we come back, we'll be jumping into map 2 in this banger of a grand final. Stay tuned.
I still think we're the best team individually here. Like, every player on this team's insane, and I also think the advantage that we're going to have now going into the grand finals is we have the stage experience. So, like, guard's only going to play against, like, the grand finalist team. They don't have any, like, real stage experience. We have experience on that stage.
Back. Nismo here to back up onto the A site, but they've been dealt with now. Jonas do it himself. Cloud burst down, he sneaks one on the Thule with one more player. No way, Don Cutie goes huge for the Clud.
I mean, it's just like a exciting but scary feeling because you're in a spot where like you can't lose now, but like you're excited because now you can prove that like this team's capable of bouncing back. Like they won't just fall apart from a few losses. So I'm excited to prove that we can bounce back from like shitty situations and we can make it.
Everyone back for the guard. Now Koala Noob. He may isolate one. Indeed he has.
Once again, M80 in pretty dominant control of this round. Forcing the guard. Oh my God, Koala Noob. He literally just saw like the flash of his elbow.
It feels good. It's going to be a bit boring when the season is going to be over. But it feels good to be where we are right now. We worked hard and we're finally really close to the finals. So it's a good feeling.